This video, we're going to learn about what controllers are. And in order for us to understand what a controller is, we need to talk about the MVC pattern. So I've made this little graph or chart. It's not a graph, it's a chart. I made you this amazing chart, and it sort of explains the design pattern that we're going to be using. And what is a design pattern is a way that you architect your code and a way that you organize your code. So here we have model, which is the M. We got view, which is the V, and the controller, which is the C. So the V we've already done. The view, that's our templates. That's our pug files that we actually template everything else out in. The model is going to be the code that we write in the data that is stored that accesses the database. So if we need to query the top 10 stores, or we need to find stores that have a specific tag, or we need to pull reviews that are related to a store, or we need to get a list of stores that are within 10 kilometers of a latitude and longitude. So all of those queries, all of that stuff that interacts with fetching data from our database, that's our model layer. And we're going to go into that. Then we have our view layer, which is our templates. And then the sort of the traffic cop in between the model and the view, because you got to get data and put it into a template. So the person that, or the thing that gets the data and puts it into a template, is called the controller. And I like to think of the controller as just a traffic cop sort of sitting in the middle and saying, hey, model, give me some data. It pulls it back. And then once it has the data, it sends it over to the view. So if we were to think of, I always love stupid ways to relate it to life. If you have friends, many of you do, you might have one of those friends in your group that's always organizing everything. So you want to have a party. You might have friends who have alcohol and snacks. That would be your model. You might have friends that have a place to party. Maybe they know a good restaurant, or maybe they have a house that you can go to. That would be your view. But those two people can't get along together because they're just totally useless. They got the goods, but they can't get along. So you always have that one friend that's texting everybody and making Facebook events and sort of in between and making sure that it all comes together. That's what the controller is in our stupid example here. So if we look at this code here, you'll see that we have written all of this logic and we've directly tied it to a route. And that, after you build a large application, can get really, really messy. It can be really hard to test. It's not reusable at all, because what happens if you wanted to do similar or the same code on a different route, like /hello? Then you'd have to copy paste the code. No. So what we do is we factor this code out into its own controller. If you open up your file system here and you see we have a folder called controllers, that's where all of our controllers are going to live. And generally, I like to create a controller for every specific area of the website. So we'll have a controller for dealing with stores, creating and finding them. We'll have a controller for dealing with the users. We'll have a controller for dealing with the reviews. And generally, each specific part of your application, each functional part of your application, will have its own controller. So we'll open that up. We'll make a new file, and we're going to call it store controller. I like to camel case them .js. And then we have to export all of the different functions that happen. Now, again, a controller is just this part of our actual code. So we can go into here, and on our exports variable, so exports is sort of a global variable, and anything that you put on the exports variable will be importable in another file. So we can say exports dot, and we'll call this homepage, because this is going to handle whenever someone requests a homepage. And we'll set that to be an arrow function here. We have a request, we have a response, and then we will simply just say res.render our index file. Then we'll go into our index.js, and we can get rid of all this joking around here. So what have we done? We have router.get /, and then we need to give it our controller function here. So first thing we need to do is import it. So const store controller equals, and then we're going to require /, because it's a relative file, into our controllers file. Oh, we actually know we need to go up, because what file are we in right now? We're in the route. So we go up a level into our controllers and then get our store controller. Well, here we'll say store controller dot, and then what was the method we made? Called homepage. And what this does is it will then take this function here, and we will essentially just copy and paste it into here. But now that code is not directly tied to the route. It's just tied to being its own function, and we can pull that out and attach it to any route that we want at any time. Now, if you were to try to refresh this, we're going to see an error here. It's going to say failed to look up views index in views directory. And that's because we haven't created our index file yet, right? We're trying to render index, but we haven't yet passed it anything. So we'll go to our views directory. We'll create a new file named index.pug. And if we just put a paragraph that says hi in there and refresh, now you'll see that is rendering out our index.pug file. Now that's not good enough. We want to extend the layout, and we want to make, how did you put hi in there? Remember, we have a block called content, and inside of that, we indent it one level for our paragraph. So let's see how we're doing there. There we go. Now it's showing up. We have our hi. We've got the rest of our page being laid out. So generally how it's going to work, and this is how we are going to have it, is our routes file is simply just going to tell us what the URLs that we hit are, and then we'll always shell it off to a separate file to do the actual work. So we always shell off the work to a store controller, and sometimes we're going to have multiple in here, which is what we're going to learn next. It's called middleware. So that's it. Let's jump on to the next one.